Picture this. A single American P-51 Mustang streaks through the German countryside at 500 miles per hour, its Merlin engine screaming at maximum power. The year is 1944, and the pilot has just spotted something that shouldn't exist, a sleek, swept-wing aircraft moving impossibly fast through the sky. It's Germany's revolutionary Me-262 jet fighter, a machine from the future that can outrun anything the Allies possess. For most pilots, encountering this technological marvel would mean certain death. But Captain Chuck Yeager isn't most pilots, and today he's about to prove that sometimes the old ways can still triumph over the new. November 6, 1944, the skies over northwestern Germany. 21-year-old Chuck Yeager was leading a combat mission with the 357th Fighter Group, call sign the Yoxford Boys. Born in the hills of West Virginia and raised on a hardscrabble farm along the Mud River, Yeager had already proven himself one of America's most formidable fighter pilots. His journey to this moment had been anything but ordinary. Just 8 months earlier, Yeager had been shot down over occupied France on his 8th combat mission. Using skills learned from his moonshine-running father, he had evaded capture and joined the French resistance. For 2 months, he helped build plastic explosive bombs before making a harrowing escape across the Pyrenees Mountains into Spain. Army regulations prohibited evaders, pilots who had been shot down and returned, from flying combat missions again. The reasoning was sound. If captured a second time, they might reveal resistance networks under interrogation. But Yeager was determined to return to the cockpit. He appealed his case all the way up the chain of command to Supreme Allied Commander General Dwight D. Eisenhower himself. Eisenhower made an exception, and by August 1944, Yeager was back in combat flying his P-51D Mustang Glamorous Glenn III, named after his girlfriend Glennis back home. The decision would prove prophetic. On October 12th, Yeager had become the first pilot in his group to achieve ace in a day, destroying 5 German fighters in a single mission. Now, on this crisp November morning, Yeager was about to face an entirely different kind of challenge. The 357th Fighter Group was escorting B-24 Liberator bombers returning from a raid on oil refineries near Minden. The mission had been routine until German controllers scrambled something special to intercept the American formation. At 25,000 feet, Yeager spotted them first. 5 sleek, swept-wing aircraft climbing toward the bombers at an impossible rate. These were Messerschmitt Me-262s from Kommando Nowotny, Germany's first operational jet fighter unit. Led by legendary ace Major Walter Nowotny, these pilots were flying machines that represented a quantum leap in aviation technology. The Me-262 was unlike anything that had ever taken to the skies. Powered by twin Junkers Jumo 004 turbojet engines, it could reach speeds of over 530 miles per hour, nearly 100 mph faster than the fastest Allied propeller-driven fighters. Armed with 4 30mm Mk-108 cannons, it packed enough firepower to destroy a heavy bomber with a single burst. The technological gap was staggering. While Yeager's P-51D Mustang represented the pinnacle of propeller-driven fighter design, it was fundamentally limited by the physics of piston engines and spinning propellers. The Packard-built Merlin V1650 engine in his aircraft could produce 1,490 horsepower, but that power had to be converted through a complex mechanical drivetrain to a 3-bladed propeller. The Me-262's jet engines, by contrast, produced thrust directly through the combustion of fuel and compressed air. Each Jumo 004 generated 1,180 pounds of static thrust, giving the twin-engine fighter a power-to-weight ratio that no propeller aircraft could match. At altitude, where jet engines perform most efficiently, the Me-262 could accelerate away from pursuing fighters with contemptuous ease. German engineers had also equipped their revolutionary fighter with advanced aerodynamics. The Me-262's swept wings, pressurized cockpit, and tricycle landing gear represented innovations that wouldn't appear on Allied aircraft for years. Even its armament was futuristic. The 30mm Mk-108 cannons fired explosive shells that could shatter a bomber's wing spar with a single hit. Yeager had heard rumors about German jet jobs, but this was his first encounter with the revolutionary aircraft. What he witnessed defied everything he knew about aerial combat. The Me-262s approached the bomber formation with breathtaking speed, fired quick bursts, then disappeared into the distance before the escorting Mustangs could react. "I turned to meet them," Yeager later recalled. "I'd heard about the new type of aircraft, but actually witnessing their speed was a surprise." One of the jets fired at him and missed, streaking past so fast it seemed to violate the laws of physics. Yeager opened his throttle and put his Mustang into a vertical bank, but the jet was already gone, disappearing into the cloud cover like a ghost. The encounter lasted mere seconds, but it revealed the fundamental problem facing Allied pilots. In a straight fight, the Me-262 was simply untouchable. No propeller-driven aircraft could match its speed in level flight. The German pilots had learned to use hit-and-run tactics, making high-speed passes through bomber formations before Allied escorts could engage. Yeager had not survived this long in combat through luck alone. His exceptional 2010 vision, twice as sharp as normal eyesight, allowed him to spot enemy aircraft at ranges that would leave other pilots blind. Growing up in rural West Virginia, he had learned to hunt squirrels and rabbits with a single-shot rifle, developing the patience and marksmanship skills that translated perfectly to aerial gunnery. His mechanical aptitude, learned from tinkering with old cars and farm equipment, gave him an intuitive understanding of aircraft systems that many college-educated pilots lacked. Yeager could feel when an engine was running rough, sense when control surfaces were responding sluggishly, and push his aircraft to performance limits that others feared to attempt. More importantly, Yeager possessed what fighter pilots call situational awareness, the ability to track multiple threats, predict enemy movements, and position himself for optimal attacks while maintaining escape options. This cognitive skill, combined with lightning-fast reflexes and ice-cold nerves under fire, had already made him one of the most feared pilots in the European theater. Instead of rejoining the formation, he rolled his Mustang over and dove through the cloud layer, following his instincts about where the Germans might be headed. Emerging from the clouds at 10,000 feet, Yeager found himself alone over the German countryside near Osnabrück. He eased back on his power settings and turned for home, but something caught his eye. What appeared to be a well-camouflaged airfield with an unusually long concrete runway. His combat instincts told him this might be where the jets had come from. Yeager decided to investigate, descending toward what he now realized was Akmer Airfield, one of Germany's secret jet bases. As he approached at 500 feet, scanning the area for targets of opportunity, he spotted something that made his pulse quicken. A lone Me-262 approaching the field from the south, gear down, preparing to land. This was the moment Yeager had been waiting for. The revolutionary jet fighter was now vulnerable, slowed to barely 200 miles per hour on final approach. The technological advantage that made it untouchable in flight had become its greatest weakness. Yeager had found the one circumstance where his propeller-driven Mustang could engage Germany's wonder weapon on equal terms. Without hesitation, Yeager rolled his P-51 into a split-S maneuver, diving vertically toward the unsuspecting jet. His Mustang accelerated rapidly, reaching over 500 mph in the dive, as gravity added to his engine's power. The Me-262 pilot, focused on landing procedures, never saw death approaching from above. German flak batteries around the airfield suddenly erupted, filling the sky with deadly bursts of anti-aircraft fire. The gunners had spotted the diving American fighter, but Yeager was committed to his attack. At 400 yards range, he lined up the jet in his gun sight and squeezed the trigger. 6 .50-caliber machine guns roared to life, sending a concentrated stream of armor-piercing rounds into the Me-262's wings. Yeager fired a single short burst, just enough to ensure hits without wasting precious ammunition. He could see his tracers striking the jet's aluminum skin, tearing through control surfaces and fuel lines. The effect was immediate and devastating. The Me-262 shuddered under the impact, its right wing beginning to fold upward as structural damage compromised the aircraft's integrity. Thick black smoke poured from damaged fuel systems as the pilot struggled to maintain control. Yeager had to break away immediately as concentrated flak fire erupted around his Mustang. He pulled straight up, feeling the G-forces press him deep into his seat as shrapnel burst dangerously close to his cockpit. Looking back over his shoulder, he watched the stricken jet attempt an emergency landing. The Me-262 came down hard about 400 yards short of the runway, its landing gear collapsing as it skidded through a wooded area. The right wing separated from the fuselage just outboard of the jet engine, cartwheeling through the trees. Remarkably, the aircraft did not catch fire, and the German pilot likely survived the crash landing. Yeager's combat report was characteristically understated. "I spotted a lone 262 approaching the field from the south at 500 feet. He was going very slow, about 200 men on me. I split est on him and was going around 500 men on me. I fired a single short burst from around 400 yards and got hits on his wings. I had to break straight up, and looking back saw the enemy aircraft crash land about 400 yards short of the field." What Yeager had accomplished was far more significant than his modest report suggested. He had achieved one of the first confirmed air-to-air victories of a propeller-driven fighter over a jet aircraft. More importantly, he had demonstrated that Germany's revolutionary technology was not invincible. It could be defeated by superior tactics, timing, and pilot skill. The psychological impact of Yeager's victory reverberated throughout both air forces. For Allied pilots, it proved that the dreaded jets could be beaten. The key was catching them during vulnerable moments, takeoff, landing, or when they slowed down for combat maneuvers. For German pilots, it demonstrated that their technological advantage came with serious tactical limitations. The Me-262's speed was both its greatest asset and its fundamental weakness. While it could outrun any Allied fighter in level flight, this same speed made accurate gunnery nearly impossible. German pilots had only seconds to line up shots during high-speed passes, and slowing down to improve accuracy left them vulnerable to exactly the kind of attack Yeager had executed. Yeager's victory also highlighted the importance of airfield attacks in countering the jet threat. Allied commanders quickly realized that the most effective way to deal with Me-262s was to attack them on the ground or during the vulnerable moments of takeoff and landing. The jets required long, well-maintained runways and were sitting ducks when transitioning between ground and air operations. The day after Yeager's kill, General Lieutenant Adolf Galland, Germany's fighter commander, visited Akmer Airfield to investigate what had gone wrong. He was furious that Commando Nowotny had failed to maintain protective patrols of conventional fighters during jet operations. The loss reinforced his belief that the Me-262 program needed better tactical integration with existing Luftwaffe units. For Chuck Yeager personally, the victory represented validation of everything he had learned about aerial combat. Born into poverty in rural West Virginia, he had relied on natural instincts, exceptional eyesight, and an intuitive understanding of three-dimensional combat to become one of America's most successful fighter pilots. His triumph over Germany's most advanced technology proved that human factors still mattered more than mechanical superiority. 3 weeks later, Yeager would achieve another remarkable feat, shooting down 4 Focke-Wulf 190s in a single engagement on November 27th. By war's end, he would be credited with 11.5 aerial victories, including multiple encounters with German jets. But his first Me-262 kill remained special, the moment when American determination and tactical innovation triumphed over technological revolution. The broader implications of propeller fighters defeating jets extended far beyond individual combat encounters. Allied intelligence quickly developed systematic approaches to countering the jet threat. P-51 Mustangs began prowling near known jet bases, waiting to catch Me-262s during their most vulnerable moments. Fighter bombers targeted the long runways that jets required for operations. By early 1945, these tactics had proven so effective that German jet operations became increasingly limited. Despite the Me-262's technological superiority, Luftwaffe jet units never achieved the impact their designers had envisioned. Production problems, fuel shortages, and continuous Allied attacks on airfields prevented the revolutionary aircraft from changing the war's outcome. Chuck Yeager's victory over the Me-262 also foreshadowed his post-war career as a test pilot. Just 3 years later, he would become the first human to officially break the sound barrier in the Bell X-1 rocket plane. His ability to master cutting-edge technology while maintaining the instincts of a combat pilot made him invaluable in the early development of supersonic flight. The lessons learned from propeller versus jet combat in World War II would prove crucial in the early jet age. When the Korean War began in 1950, American pilots flying F-80 jets and even some P-51 Mustangs would face Soviet-built MiG-15s, using tactics first developed against German jets over Europe. The fundamental principles remained the same. Exploit the enemy's vulnerabilities during transition phases, use superior maneuverability at lower speeds, and never allow technological advantages to substitute for tactical thinking. Yeager's encounter also demonstrated the importance of pilot training and experience over raw performance specifications. The German Me-262 pilot, despite flying a superior aircraft, had been caught at his most vulnerable moment by an opponent who understood timing, positioning, and the critical importance of surprise. In aerial combat, the pilot who sees first and shoots first usually survives, regardless of his aircraft's theoretical capabilities. The victory highlighted another crucial factor in air warfare: the human element's continued dominance over mechanical systems. While engineers could design faster, more powerful aircraft, they could not program the split-second decision-making, tactical flexibility, and adaptive thinking that separated great pilots from merely competent ones. Yeager's triumph represented the culmination of years of training, combat experience, and natural talent focused into a single decisive moment. Today, Chuck Yeager's Me-262 victory stands as a defining moment in aviation history, proof that technological superiority alone cannot guarantee tactical success. In the hands of a skilled pilot using proven tactics, even obsolescent aircraft could triumph over revolutionary technology. It was a lesson that would echo through decades of aerial warfare, reminding future generations that the human element remains the ultimate deciding factor in combat. For the young farm boy from West Virginia who had dreamed of flying, November 6, 1944 represented the perfect intersection of opportunity, skill, and courage. Chuck Yeager had proven that sometimes the future still had to yield to the past, and that propeller-driven determination could still defeat jet-powered innovation.